Good evening. This is, we'll call the order of the Utility Service Board for May 19, 2021. We'll make sure that this meeting has confirmation and appropriately meeting notification has been made, and all members are attended in person except for Chairman Neil Taylor, which is remote. First order of agenda will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Has everyone had the chance to review the minutes?
Yes, I have. I would like to suggest one addition on item number 3, where it says to accept the minutes as written. It didn't identify which minutes. I suggested we add April 14, 2021 minutes as written. And so with that addition, I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, a motion carries. Minutes are approved. We're going to have a little change here. Instead of going to item 4, which is Ulen project, we're going to move up opportunity for public comment. Mr. Neal.
Hey, thank you guys for letting me speak again. 2 weeks ago, I was here addressing the bid for polymers and my concern about it. When I left, you said there'd be no questions, and after I left, I noticed there were some questions for the engineer, some questions for Ryan. So I wanted to cover a few things that I think you all missed. But anyway, long story short, is a year ago you decided to bid polymers. I think Ryan did, or Ed, I don't know which. After talking to them, they realized they knew nothing about polymers and decided it was a bad idea to bid. This past year, this year, the same process happened, other than I wasn't informed. It was legal, as talked to Mr. Jacob, it was legal the way it was handled. But in that year, there was nothing learned. There were no tests done, there was nothing learned. So after I addressed it again with Mr. Jacob on the phone, I think it was decided that, I thought they would probably decide not to bid, but after hiring engineers, I'm sure it cost a lot of money to work on that. You redid it twice. And then I'm assuming that Mr. Jacob's law firm made sure it was legal. I'm sure there was cost in that. So I guess I want to question, but what I was, a couple concerns. How much money was spent on that? And the second would be, I'd ask Ann or Ryan, Mr. Bisquell, what was the purpose of the bid? What was the purpose of the bid? Do you all know? I mean, what was the purpose of the bid? Anybody want to answer that question?
I think what we're doing here right now.
No, I'm saying, I would think it's to save money, right?
We want to listen to your comments.
Okay, but I'm assuming it was to save money. That would be because the guys at the wastewater plant, I've been doing business there for 20 years, thrilled with the product. That being said, you spent, I'm assuming, thousands of dollars looking at how to do this big, legitimate bid. So anyway, I was wanting to know the purpose, but it was to save money. It was, it was wrong. When you opened the bids, and the bid was $2.47 a pound, did anybody question, Mr. Smith, you had a lot to say, did you question what you were paying prior to that?
Purpose of the bid was to determine what polymer would work best for our system, and then bid that request out.
But you didn't get a product as good. That's confirmed. But what I'm not going to. Here's
so
what I'm saying.
Mr. Napier, let me interrupt you real quick. So I just speaking on behalf of the board. The board is free to ask questions, but what I'm not going to do relative to a bid process is recommend that if you have questions.
I have one more question.
Let me just finish what I'm saying. Is that you're welcome to contact any of the board members, but this is not sort of a question and answer or deposition type setting. And so if you've got comments, that's great. If board members want to If board members want to ask questions, that's great as
So
well.
why don't you
Okay,
finish
you
up?
opened a bid for $2.47 a pound. You were paying $1.88. No one asked questions of, is this a good deal? Are we saving money? No one. And I guarantee you, any one of you guys that are in business, if somebody offered you a $35,000 check or a $55,000 check, you're going to pay the 50, you're going to pay the 35. But this utility, no one asked a question. No one, so you spent all this money making the bid legitimate and opened a bid that was 30% higher. You're going to spend another $20,000 a year because no one asked the question, is this a good deal? I don't understand that. I said, I don't need this business. I don't even care but here's what I can tell you. You guys pissed away $20,000 because no one asked a question. Now you spend millions of dollars, don't you? What happens on $1 million project, $2 million? Is it taken this slightly? Mr. Smith, you thought it was
Bid in the second bid go around. Sir, did you bid in the second bid? Okay, I don't understand how you
Well,
feel
why
like
would you
you have
award a bid that
I
was
don't understand how you feel like you have a right to complain when you did not even bid on the second go-around, sir.
Sir, why would this utility agree to pay $1,400 per container more
We gotta cut this out.
than they had to? Why?
We accepted
You don't
the
have to
most
accept-
responsive and lowest priced second bid, sir. And you chose not to,
accept the bid.
you chose not to participate.
You're not required to accept the bid. So you took your ratepayers' money and you wrote a check for $55,000 when you could have wrote one for $35,000. I don't know if you own a business, but there is no way in God's green earth you would have done that. Nobody on this board would have paid $55,000 what they could have paid $35,000. And I would, if I was a ratepayer in this state, I'd be pissed. You know why? Because you spend millions of dollars. And you took no regard. Ed, Ryan, no regard. They're paying $100,000 and nobody raised their hand and go, man, we can't award that price. It's 30% higher. So if I was a ratepayer, you spent $20,000 you didn't need to spend. I don't care what you say or what, nobody cared enough or was knowledgeable enough that they didn't say, hey, shit, we can't pay that. It's 30% higher. So if again, I had a few questions and you can answer my questions or a newspaper. I would be concerned if I was a ratepayer that nobody on this whole frickin' board or Ryan.
Excuse me, Mr. Napier, I need to cut you off there. Bob Holden, who's the engineer who did the spec for us, he did testing, and he sent an email
He did
to
not
us
do
after the
testing.
email where he...
He did not do testing.
It's a polydiene flock product, which is the same product that you sell.
It is not the same, sir, there's two different
It is the
manufacturers.
same product that the
Sir,
same
you're
active
ignorant.
ingredient.
So,
It is not the same product. It's made by a different manufacturer, completely different made product.
But the
Bob
bottom
Holden
line
knows
is when you did
nothing
the
about
bid, we
chemistry.
didn't save any money, but we didn't lose, and he
Dude,
just
you're
used
paying
what you said. so-
$1,400 more per container. $1,400 more per
So,
container.
if
You're
you
buying
bid on
10
if you bid on the project, we could probably speak further, but I would recommend
No,
the
you
board
know
would just
what?
stop
Here's
it
what
here.
it
Yeah,
takes away your
I mean,
responsibility. You
you-
pissed away $20,000 in because you didn't know what you were paying.
He's right, you didn't bid on it, and we really need to stop this.
Okay, well, I'm done.
We appreciate your
But you know what?
comments, appreciate your comments.
I would have the newspaper asking, well, I'm not $1 million project. Nobody asked the question. You guys pissed away $20,000. Did you? I mean, you did.
So-
You pissed it away.
So
Because
just
you
as-
know what? It's not your money. Absolutely not your money.
so just as a point of clarification, I'd gotten an email from Ryan that Bob Holden did an analysis, just so this board is aware, that the board will be paying, or the utility will be paying $420 more this year in polymer than it did last
Based on what?
year.
I'm not a chemist, sir.
Than it did last year.
Hey, I tell you what, I will come back at the end of the year and we'll check what you spent the previous year. You guys are going to be embarrassed. You're really going to be upset, sir.
Sir, I don't understand, I don't appreciate the language you've used, and if you do come back, it better be improved. Thank you.
It'd just go on, I would say.
Write a
Okay,
check for 55 or 35, gentlemen.
do we have any other public comments from the, no public comments? Okay, we're going to move on and go to the Ulen project change order number 1. Jeff?
Hello, everyone. I got one quick item to bring to the board tonight. This is the change order for Windhoven on the Ulen project. It's a land easement request. There was a unrecorded easement in the Ulen project. It was between the country club and the pro shop. Ulen, the town of Ulen is ultimately responsible for any substantial changes orders that take place. But seeing how this was a bid job and had not to exceed limit and the work needed to continue, Lebanon Utilities will pay initially for the change order, and then we will seek reimbursement from the town of Ulen.
Okay.
So I respectfully request that the Lebanon Utility Service Board approve the Windhoven-Ulen change order for the amount of $600. If you have any questions.
Any
about the project or
questions?
anything.
Anybody on the board have any questions?
My only question is it really worth us to go and ask Ulen for $600? I mean, it's a matter of process, I understand Jeff's doing absolutely the right thing, but that'd be my question.
Yeah, so I can.
I'd leave that to legal counsel
Yeah, so let
to
me,
comment.
so there will be a total bid, the agreement we put together, we will not be separately asking for $600. It will be included in the
okay.
total contract reimbursement we
Okay,
seek from
okay.
them.
Understood.
And just a quick comment, so the board, I may be stealing John Leitner's thunder or Jeff's. The contractor is substantially completed the work on the rear yard or the primary installation, or the primary system. And I think, Jeff or John, we had one cut dog wire invisible fence line.
That is correct.
Was the only issue that made it, at least to my desk. And Windhoven has done a spectacular job at a pretty tight, difficult project with their installation.
Yeah, I've been by there several times, and I think they've done a good job.
Yes, there was one box we had to leave open until we had some material come in.
Right.
But we'll take care of that. Lebanon Utilities will take care of that one. But they have completed their part.
Okay.
So we've, in essence, advised Ulen of the substantial completion, and the secondary system is now turned over to Ulen to connect within the next 90 days.
So they're going to do that within the next 90 days? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I'd entertain a motion to move to approve the Ulen project change order number 1 from Windhoven for the amount of $600.
Second.
Second.
Working
I
the
make a
chair.
motion to approve the Ulen project change order from the Windhoven in the amount of $600.
All right, have a second by Neil. Okay, so I would move to approve this. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The change order for Ulen project, order number 1, has been approved. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to the next item, which is the Reese Park Lift Station Design Agreement. Ed, who's going to do that?
Oh, okay, thank you, everyone.
Hey, Ryan, but before you get started, let me just mention that this is a non-budgeted project, but we talked about it at the last board meeting, and the mayor is working on getting American Rescue Funds funding for it. It's not finalized, but he's supportive of it, and it's something we expect to happen. So I know the board would have questions about being unbudgeted. I just thought I should mention that. And Ryan, I don't know if you can see us, but John Leitner's at the podium and you're remote, so let me turn it back over to you and however you want to handle this.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. I apologize for not being there. They kind of scheduled a bunch of conferences on top of each other this year due to the fact that we didn't get any contact hours last year, so unfortunately I am out of town. I will give a real quick background, and then I'll let John Leitner kind of explain where we are. I think everybody will remember the issues that we had in the area of Marley and also the Northfield area with our SSOs, and how we've been trying to figure out a solution for those areas. we think we have a pretty good solution, and this process will allow us to move on further with that solution and, ensuring that it is a good solution. We actually also sat in a meeting yesterday where near Auburn Meadows and the Chadwick area, they have approximately 100 homes possibly going in by next year. So that just illustrates how much more flow will actually be put into this area. So it's not, we have problems now, but in another year there could be at least 100 more homes or possibly more. So it just makes this project that much more vital. So John, if you want to kind of jump in since you're there and take over, that'd be great.
Yep, thanks, Ryan. We were here a couple weeks ago talking about the SSOs and kind of this idea of the Reese Park lift station, talking about how we really see it as two phases. So kind of a phase one that has the lift station and force main, probably a little bit hard to see on the screen, but then phase two being some upstream gravity sewers to kind of replace some of our bottlenecks. So again, the idea would be, coming out of this, would be to get rid of 7 out of 8 of our current, I guess, recurring SSOs. So what you have today before you to consider is an engineering design proposal. So that would be including phase one and phase two, kind of almost everything from, I guess, administration, survey, design, permitting, there's some railroad coordination, through construction inspection. We do have some to be determined items that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of as far as right-of-way services. So that would be acquiring anything that we might find out we need as we go through, and then some geotechnical evaluation and electrical sub-design. So some of those items we'll probably come back for a supplement once we get through kind of a conceptual study phase, determine our alignments that we want to go for, kind of figure out exactly what easements we have existing. We're trying to stay along existing routes as much as we possibly can within existing easements, but I don't think we have a good record offhand and just pick up and say, yeah, we got enough room right now for what alignment might come from the conceptual study recommendations.
I have a question. The county seems to have an interesting relationship when it comes to CSX Railroad and construction. Do you anticipate any concerns on the side of CSX for this particular project?
I don't anticipate any. I mean, what we're looking at for the force main is what's actually going to be crossing the railroad. We're going to be directionally drilling or doing a trenchless installation of that most likely anyway, which is what the railroad would like to see. There's always, I'm not going to say in a public meeting that it's going to go perfectly with the railroad, but they've actually been pretty good to work with in past on these type of utility crossings. So there'll be requirements that they have as far as flaggers being out there on site when we're doing the work and certain signage and things like that.
But BF&S has experience working with CSX?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Yeah, I will say,
Say, I've worked with CSX before, and they're very professional, they do a good job, but they have a bureaucracy and things go slowly. You have to be on top of it early, and BF&S has been good at that, so.
Correct. Yeah, there's certainly a process and they stick to it, and that's, at least we know what the process is, I guess I would say.
I'm the board's liaison to wastewater utility, and I attempted to the best of my ability to do some due diligence on this project. And on May 4th, I had the pleasure of attending a meeting that Ryan Ottinger led, that John Hammerly and Bobby Taylor attended, John Leitner attended, Ed Basquill attended. And one of the outcomes of this meeting is that, as a board member, when there's projects being considered, I like to look at the engineering recommendations and the boots on the ground recommendation from our most experienced employees, with the expectation and hope that those two points of view coincide. And I'd like to report to the board, at least to my satisfaction, as a result of this meeting, and it was a great meeting, that this particular solution to these 7 SSOs, by the way, SSO is sewer system overflow, is a good one, that both the boots on the ground and engineering consultants agree with. When I came on this board, one of my goals was to tackle these projects. We tackled 3 of these SSOs on Green Street, and we have significantly mitigated them. And I feel like that we will significantly mitigate or eliminate 7 of these remaining 8. SSOs are not uncommon for utility companies, but to tackle them as successfully as looks like we're able to do is an accomplishment, one that I look forward to supporting enthusiastically along the way, and I appreciate the efforts everybody made during the meeting on May 4th to educate me as best I was able to be educated. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments, Aaron. So the $406,700, that's a start, and then you may have to add to that?
Yeah, but it won't be to that level. It's not like it's going to be a double. There's a few extra
Right.
steps, and we'll definitely need to get some geotech when we kind of determine where we want the lift station exactly, get some bores, and as we go to do some of these creek crossings and the railroad crossings, we'll probably want bores there too to make sure that we know, the contractor knows what they're getting into as they get into that. Electrical design, we know we're gonna need that, but that'll kind of be fleshed out a little bit more as we go on the details of how big of a lift station we all decide is appropriate for that area to handle things. Generator considerations, I know Ryan's a big proponent of adding backup generators when we add new lift stations, and I would agree with that too, but kind of some of those items to figure out. But,
All right. Yeah, I know the city is working on some rescue funds that will, can be approved by the city council that will cover the funding for this project, hopefully.
Yep, yeah, and I did want to point out the right-of-way services too could be another thing. It's so hard to kind of keep those records of easements. As we go back through, we have some 15-inch sewers that we're trying to go kind of
Right.
along the same general route. You would hope that there are some significant easements for that, but, it's not to say that it couldn't be a 15-foot easement that we can't build anything on. So it's just hard to tell until we kind of get in and do that research, but we didn't want to put a worst-case number in there to
Right, understand.
to start
Hey,
off.
John, what's our range of cost for the total project?
For the overall project?
Yeah, to include the lift station, run the new
We
line.
had that last time, didn't we?
Yeah, it was, I think we're in the range around $3 million
Yeah.
is what we were at.
2.75, something like that.
Yep.
The
Yeah, and
the
that
big number I
piece-
heard was 3.25.
That's, well, I think we said 2.75 to 3.25.
Right.
At the beginning, kind of leaned towards that higher estimate, but it also kind of depends, that's if you're doing the whole project together. If we end up splitting up phase 1 and phase 2
Right.
and having kind of a significant delay in between them, which hopefully, we can figure out how not to do that as we go through some of these design and studies and things like that. But it's always better to bunch things together rather than wait over time.
Yeah, I'm a back of the envelope kind of guy, and I've had some preliminary discussions with our CFO, Sandra Morgan. If the city can come up with half the cost of this project with our existing anticipated cash flows and without any other major projects resulting from the capital improvement plan, we may be able to do both phases, one right after the other, without a rate increase and without incurring debt. So there was a lot of ifs in there, but with the city's help, we can be able to move quickly, I think, on both phases of this project, and I think that's wonderful.
I think we have to look at it. I think it's to be determined if we can do it.
So my concern here is not that we need to do it because we need to do it.
Absolutely.
We do not have a funding mechanism in place to do this at this point in time. And supporting $400,000 without that mechanism, to me, seems a bit premature. Okay? BF&S done a great job because we had this discussion. We know it's an issue. We have in place now what we think is a reasonable engineering estimate to get us to a point of being able to do this. But we have no approved funding mechanism. The ARP has not been released. City Council is unaware of this request, to the best of my knowledge at this point in time. I understand that there's probably been discussions with Matt, and Matt would be very supportive, but I think we need to kind of make sure everything's lined up from the funding standpoint before we jump off and then go ahead with this, because it's also not on our capital plan, right? Now, my understanding is we're going to have, with wastewater this year, we'll have that strategic plan come out, and there's no doubt this will be a top capital priority. But there's no, I don't see a funding mechanism anywhere yet that says we should go and start right now on this project.
In response to that, could I ask our CFO to address these comments, please, as to whether we can,
Aaron, let me chime in real quickly here, is that if you look at the agreement, in Appendix D, I think it is, it lays out the timeline for it, and although it's not to exceed $400,000, there's check-ins at various points, and Aaron made a good point about what is the exact estimate. This is a very high-level estimate at 2.75 to 3.25, and what we really want to get to is the conceptual design, which is we'll be back to this board before we spend about $50,000. And at that point, I'm guessing it's going to be about a month or two from now. You're going to have done some surveying work and some field work and some calculations and some. So we'll be $50K in at that point. And if there's not a funding mechanism at that point, we don't have to spend. This board can not approve spending another dollar on it. This is just get the kickoff to get a better number for the project. Is that about right, John?
And actually, we have in the schedule in Appendix C. Really a survey phase of about 60 days and then a conceptual study phase of another 45 days after that. So we're looking at, 3 or 4 months of trying to figure out exactly what we're doing, I guess, the right alignment before you're really kind of, I guess, committing to spending $400,000. If we get to that point and we all decide, well, we can't even, there's no funding, we can't do it, we'll put everything on hold, and that does happen.
So what we would be doing is just approve the project for an amount not to exceed $406,700 per the agreement. Sandra, do you have anything to say? As far as funds availability?
Yeah, so right now it was my understanding that we'd be spending a little over, I think, $50,000 in the design phase, and then it would be determined if we were moving forward. And, based on looking at the entire project, Aaron and I did speak about that. And looking at that, if the city is able to contribute about what we think there are, our 5-year budget, it'll get a little uncomfortable in about 3 years. So we are going to have to look at cutting some items, but as long as Ryan can cut those items, we do start back up on an uptrend in the 4th and 5th year. So we're hoping that it would be doable without borrowing money or without affecting current rates.
Yeah.
But we can't say that 100% until we know, more about the specifics, the exact costs, and how that'll go. But that is our hope also.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Sandra, what I guess I need to add is that we're working on a wastewater study with BF&S that the completion date's in August. And that's a capital plan similar to what we did for water right before I got here. And this probably won't be the only big ticket item in there. There's going to be a timeline on when things are needed. And there's not a funding plan for anything in that plan unless it's something already reflected in our budget right now. So
Right.
It's great that there might not be a need for a rate increase for this one project, but there's going to need to be a funding plan for different things we have in that capital plan to get rid of sanitary sewer overflows and fix some other longstanding problems, getting ready for all the development that's coming and serving the customers we have now better so there's not SSOs.
Right. I'm basing it off of the current budget.
Yeah.
And any changes that come through on that will change that 5-year projection.
Yeah, but like Mr. Stoner said, it's to be determined. I don't really, I don't want to commit one way or the other in a public meeting to yes or no on a rate increase until we see
Right.
what the
Right.
need is, so.
So I guess to sum it up, I guess we would move to approve the design agreement with Butler, fairman, ciphers for the Reese Park Lift Station project in the amount of $50,000 per year start agreement?
No.
Well, it would, I guess what we were asked for was the full agreement, so we
Yeah,
provided the 406,000.
I strongly support the full agreement.
Well, I think it's up to the board to decide, do we want to approve that? Is there any comment from the board? You want to approve the max amount?
I strongly support approving the maximum amount.
I know you do, Aaron. I was
I would
asking.
say, until we
somebody.
see a funding mechanism, I think that's an excessive amount right now.
Well, I can, Jeff, I guess the attorney is, if, right now, if you approve the whole agreement and we spend anything over $15,000, it comes back to the board anyway. So effectively, by our rules, you're not approving spending any
Legal
the whole
counsel?
thing.
Yeah, I think what you could do is you could approve the agreement, which I'm hearing is a mechanism to get in front of the city council and get them considering this, sharing that expense. What you could do is approve the agreement, subject to a check-in at 50,000.
Check in.
And the agreement would be, you would need board approval to move beyond the 50,000, or the other alternative, which I don't think works as well, from a timing standpoint, would be that you could approve the entire agreement contingent upon the city council approving the funding. But I think I'm hearing that there's
That's a stretch.
a sense to
Well,
move things along.
I wouldn't want to do that either, because the city council may not be funding this entire project, but I want to have some reasonable assurance of what portion of the ARP they think can support this project. And then that gives us something to better understand the mechanisms we need to use to do either a partial or this entire project.
It gives us a direction to go to.
And I guess I also want to make sure that I've understood what is being requested here. What we're asking is the approval of the design of the project, not for approval of the project itself. So there would be a separate bid process that would happen. What we're talking about is the engineering fees and services, which also, to some extent, John, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you got halfway into this and said, gosh, we need to shelve this, that doesn't mean that design goes stale. It could be used at some point out in the future.
Correct. And again,
If a funding mechanism fell away,
Right.
so,
and it wouldn't be, I mean, if we get 50,000 in and like I said, everybody decides that we're not doing it, it's not like we send you an invoice for the rest of, we only bill for the work that we actually do.
Right.
So.
The other thing in this is, with the American Rescue Plan, the city's going to get some funds, but they're going to get half or a little more this year. It doesn't all come at one time.
is that right? Okay.
I would have to check with the mayor on that. I don't know for sure.
I know for sure on that one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
I'd like to make this observation, that it's my belief that we have sufficient funds now to move on phase one without the city's input, without the city's financial input, that we can't do both phase one and phase two without running the risk of a rate increase without the city's input, but that we do have sufficient funds and sufficient cash flow to move on phase one. I just want to add that to the conversation.
I think we can move forward with the design. I don't think we have a problem with that. And I agree with Mr. Jacobs' comment as far as we can approve the full amount of $406,700, subject to a check-in at $50,000 limit with the board.
Yeah.
Would that be an acceptable motion, Jeff?
Yeah, what I would like to do, with John's approval, is maybe build that in, since we're dealing with a pretty good size agreement, I'd like to build that into the agreement, that somehow there would be a notation, we do something like that. You and I can work through that.
Sure.
With Ed's approval, if that's acceptable to the board.
With the check-in limit?
Yeah.
That, I would agree.
Yeah,
Well, you're not prepared to provide the language for the motion now?
No, I think the motion would be with that check-in language.
Okay, would
added
you
to the document.
give
Oh,
us?
so you want me to provide the language of the motion?
Would you provide the motion, and I'll be willing to, if the chairman is ready to accept a motion, I'll be ready to make the motion that Jeff states.
Let's let legal counsel go ahead and
My suggested motion for the board would be that the agreement with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert be approved in an amount not to exceed $406,700 for the design of the Reese Park Lift Station Design Agreement, subject to an amendment to the contract document providing for what we have generically referred to as a check-in phase of $50,000, at the $50,000 mark, where Butler, Fairman, and Seifert would return to this board and seek approval to move beyond that $50,000 towards completion of the full contract. And that I would amend the agreement with Mr. Leitner's assistance and Ed's signature.
okay.
Does that sound reasonable to you, John?
yep, I was planning on
Is that-
coming back
is
after
that
the
any other-
study, no matter what.
In that case, I'd entertain a motion.
I so move as Jeff stated.
Aaron's the first. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, and all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side? Okay. Motion carries. It's approved. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is the Elm Street Water Tower Painting and Maintenance. Is that Ryan?
First of all, thanks everybody for kind of working through that while I was in the background there. I appreciate everybody's help with that. This is it is a budgeted amount. This is for the painting and washout and inspection, complete inspection of the Elm Street Water Tower, which is directly behind the municipal building. Last year, we entered into a agreement for a total of $770,263 with Suez, who is also who is owned by Utility Service Company, for asset management for both of our water towers. And their traditional contract is just a 5-year set contract, but Jeff and I worked through the process with them, basically making it 5 one-year contracts so we could get permission and from the board, give updates to the board, and get all the work approved instead of just doing it all. So the board would be aware of everything that was going on. So this is a different amount than I budgeted for this year's budget. Because we were not going to do the tank washout, but we have decided to go ahead and do that, so that changed the cost. But what I want to assure the board is that the approved amount at the end of the 5 years will not exceed the $770,263, and that when we update the CIP, and then when we update the next year's budget and the years following next year's budget, the work that's been done will reflect in the budgeted amounts for the next few years that we have to ensure that we do not go over budget for the total project. I know that I kind of ran through that pretty fast, and I hope that makes sense, because we did change the scope of work. We added stuff to this project. I think I can't. All I can see on the screen there that you do have the renderings. We did work with the city, Mayor Gentry, and Joe LePage were fantastic, and I'm really excited about the design. It is the same color as the Park Street Tower, which we got painted last year. It does have the logo on it and has the city name on it, and they will be matching colors. The letters and everything are matching the Chicago or the Park Street water tower, so all that will look the same. And it's going to be a great situation on that. We're supposed to do washouts every 3 to 4 years per AWWA, and I did follow those recommendations also. And it's been over 4 years, which is why we decided to speed this process up. Since it is the smaller of the water towers, we can't afford to have it down. This will be a downtime of approximately 3 to 4 weeks. The painting and all the prep work and everything else will be about 8 weeks, but we will only be down storage-wise for the 3 to 4 weeks. The other stuff will be the exterior, which will not affect the use of the tower. And so I can answer any questions that you guys might have in this project.
When do you think the project will start?
We can schedule it. This week there is actually a line pole that is about 6 inches from the base of that pedestal-style tower. And we are working, we have IT stuff on there. Our IT department has stuff on there, and the electric crew, obviously. So we're actually getting that trenched Thursday and moving that pole, getting it all underground, so we won't have to worry about that anymore. And then within the next couple of weeks, upon approval, I can schedule for the crews to come in and start the process. And they will put up safety fencing, and they will provide fencing. Since that area is not fenced off, they will provide all of that. And this tower actually has to be sandblasted, so it will be tinted, completely tinted, so none of the debris will fall in the neighbors' yards, in the street, or anything like that, since it's in such a confined rural area, or local area with houses all around it, and the street right beside it, and the alley right behind it. So it will be tinted off to ensure that, there's nothing, is no overspray, no debris makes it to anywhere but inside that tent, and will be taken away accordingly.
But you don't know right now when the contractor plans to come in?
I'm so sorry. Can you?
Ryan, he wants to know if you know when the contractor's planning to come in, and I can say you're probably not going to schedule it till you have it approved. You probably have some tentative dates, but do you know when the contractor is coming to do the work?
Yeah, so tentatively, I did not schedule anything, but he's got me on the books tentatively for about 2 weeks from last Monday, so it'll be kind of the beginning of June. If we do get approval, but that's a very tentative date. And what he'll do is, their crew is only in the state for the painting crew, not the inspection crew. They're here full time, but the painting crew is only in the state for X amount of months because they obviously go to the warm weather states so they can paint towers and tanks year round. So they have a lot of towers that they do. So but he does have me tentatively on the books. So we do get fit into the schedule this year, pending approval.
So,
Thank you.
So Ryan, you're asking to have $358,516 released?
Yes, that will include, like I said, that will include the exterior painting, the complete washout, and then they will actually get in the tower, inspect it, make sure that there's no, rust spots or any damage in there, coat the interior with the proper paint that is approved for IDEM, AWWA, and the EPA, then do a complete inside-outside inspection and bring us up to date on all of our paperwork and inspections.
Okay. Do you have any questions from the board?
Sandra, I'm assuming cash flow is no issue.
It's my understanding that, so we have this budgeted out over 5 years. 1,000 from 1 year to another, so no, cash flow's not an issue.
Okay. All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve an interior inspection, exterior sandblasting and paint removal and exterior painting as part of the asset management contract between Suez and Lebanon Utilities.
Second that motion.
In a second,
We need to say that, what's the amount?
yes, we
In
should,
the amount of $338,000,
358,516.
$358,516.
516. We have a first from Tim and a second from Jim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. If motion carries, it is approved. All right, we'll go to the next item, which is the replace of the core server.
Good evening. Basically, give a little history here. In about 2014 to 2012 timeframes, about 7 to 9 years ago, the current server and hardware infrastructure that runs pretty much all the systems for the city and the utilities, things like our AMI system, automated meter reading, our phone system, our company files, was purchased. It is now currently reached the end of life and support from the hardware manufacturer, and as such, it needs to be replaced. Should anything happen to the equipment, we would not be able to purchase replacement parts or get support from the manufacturer. So we put out and got some quotes from a few different vendors. And basically what we're asking is that the board approve purchasing of a new server, switching and storage equipment, purchasing it through Sondy Solutions for the amount of $66,020, with $27,261.50 being the amount to be paid by the City of Lebanon for their portion of the equipment. We share the equipment with them. We budgeted in our budget $40,000 for the utilities portion. The utilities portion will come into at $38,758.50. So any questions about the project, the equipment, quotes?
Any question from the board?
The only question I have is, do you believe that these two technologies that you quoted, one's Dell and I can't remember the other,
HP.
That they're reasonably the same technologies and you're
Yes.
comfortable with either?
Yeah, they're comparable with either. They're the same number of servers, amount of memory, same number of CPU cores. Basically, pretty much any more when, memory processors are all about the same, just different vendor technology. And we felt the Dell, for the price and the specs, was the overall better option of the
So
two.
the same RAM and the same cores and everything's the same, okay?
As comparable as they can be, being different hardware manufacturers. yes.
Right. All right,
I guess I could add
Ed?
that, I'm
Go
sorry to interrupt, Sondy representatives are here. You're talking to Seth Clark, who's our telecom manager and also looks after IT for us, but Steve Clark from Sondy is here, and also Costa Hantos, you're all familiar with, is here, and it's a good technology, and one of the reasons why this is a high priority project for us is that once this server is changed out, we can test some other projects we did as far as making sure that we have a backup for that is robust, and we can back up all the servers for the city and for Lebanon Utilities if something were to happen. So this is probably our number one project right now.
Yeah, we currently have backups of everything, but yeah, this is a critical piece. If it were to go offline in its current state, there would be considerable downtime. So getting it replaced, even though we could restore the equipment, there'd be considerable downtime. So getting it replaced with stuff that has proper support from the manufacturer, proper warranties, proper parts, will put us in a safer position, going forward, so we don't have any of that unplanned excessive or any downtime that's going to affect the operations of the city and utilities.
and I think that just to say something about Sondy, I think we have a very good relationship with them, and I think they've done a good job for the utilities and the city. With that said, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the purchase of new server, switching, and storage equipment through Sondy Solutions for the amount of $66,020, with $27,261.50 amount to be paid by the city of Lebanon as their portion of the shared equipment cost.
Have a first by Jim, do I have a second?
Second?
A second by Tim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is the approval of the claims, payroll, and transfers. Has everyone had a chance to review the claims? If so, I'd entertain a motion to approve the claims.
I move to approve the claims, payroll, and transfers dated May 19th, 2021 in the amount of $2,126,749.33 for claims and payroll and $6,678,814.24 for transfers.
Have a
Second?
have a first by Tim and a second by Aaron. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It is approved. Claims are approved. Next item is any other business that may come before the board. Ed, do you have anything?
I just wanted to thank the staff for all the hard work they've done over the last couple of weeks since the last board meeting. We did have a good meeting with Aaron Smith regarding the wastewater. I know that Ryan and John Leitner, too, got together a little bit with Tim, I believe, and had some good discussions on water and wastewater. And I can't say enough about the guys in the field that actually turn the wrenches and do the work, and we really appreciate them.
Okay. All right, we've already had public comment, so we'd move to the next item, which is the next board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June the 9th, 2021 at 5 p.m. And so we'll move on to the next item, which I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
I like that.